Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Saints versus Carolina Panthers Week 3 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance, and we are 2 weeks into the season, so it is not the biggest sample size ever. However, there will always be little nuggets of truth in every sample of data that you see, which is why I hope you stick around to see what these nuggets could be with this week's matchup and, of course, future matchups in the future. And if you're new to this channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So if you don't really know what some of the terms I'm talking about are, or what some of the things on the charts are as well, just go to the description, and all the sort of terms and definitions will be there to kind of help you out in terms of following along. And I will do my best to explain a couple things here and there if I do feel like I need to do that. So starting with the Saints versus Panthers matchup, in terms of the basic NFL stat information, the Panthers are favored in this matchup pretty significantly, and a big reason why for this is because the Panthers defense has been performing pretty dang well in the first 2 weeks. Offensively, the Saints have been better than the Panthers, slightly better when it comes to creating first downs with their offense, but not significantly better. And on top of that, when you combine the total O/D score is basically how well do you get first downs with your offense and prevent first downs with your defense. And it's pretty clear that when you combine how the Saints are performing on offense and defense versus how the Panthers are performing in terms of offense and defensive first down conversion rates, overall, the Panthers are just favored. So from that kind of perspective, that's kind of what it looks like. The other sort of issue to kind of consider in this particular matchup is, the Saints do have better all-around offensive statistics. Their turnover ratio is pretty good. Their sack percentage in terms of the amount of sacks that Drew Brees takes is, he's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL up to this point. And scoring, the Saints have been able to put up points this year. I don't really think the offense, as many years, the offense is not really the issue. The issue is the defense. When you look at the Saints, bottom in the NFL when it comes to preventing scores on offensive drives. They don't really create a ton of turnovers. The Panthers don't really create as many turnovers on defense up to this point compared to the rest of the NFL, but the Saints really don't create turnovers on defense. And on top of that, you can just see the sack percentage. It's just ridiculous. The Panthers, 90+ percentile overall sack percentage in terms of the amount of sacks that the Panthers get per drive, whereas the Saints are just little bitty tiny. Like, they're not the worst in the NFL, but they're pretty close. So this is basically this matchup, man. I hate this for Saints fans because, I'm a guy who lives near the area. I live basically in Baldwin County sort of area, and, which is not, it's not in Louisiana, but, I am familiar with the Saints and that whole team. And just for whatever reason, offense performs well, defense, and it just gets worse. When you look at the rest of the data, the Saints do have slightly better special teams when it comes to punt return and kick return yardage. The Panthers have been kind of lackluster, kind of bottom in the NFL actually when it comes to punt return and kick return yardage compared to the rest of the NFL through 2 weeks. Defensively, they're pretty much identical when it comes to their ability to prevent punt return yardage on both sides. And when it comes to preventing kick return yardage, both these teams are pretty much identical as well. So special teams wise, they're pretty similar overall, with the Saints just having a slight advantage when it comes to getting yardage with punt returns and kick returns. But they're by no means the best in the NFL when it comes to that particular metric. And then when you look at field goal percentage, the Saints are a little lackluster compared to the Panthers when it comes to field goal percentage. It's really early though, so it usually takes about 8 weeks to really get a firm idea in terms of who's good at field goal percentage and who's not, in terms of misses and stuff like that. But so far, the Panthers are at least ahead of the Saints when it comes to that particular metric. Extra point percentage is also in favor of the Panthers. Punting average is more so in the favor of the Saints. who have a pretty high punting average compared to the rest of the NFL up to this point. And again, overall, I mean, the data mostly favors the Panthers because, again, you know, the Panthers' offense is by no means perfect, and they're not the best in terms of just putting up points and everything else like that compared to the Saints. But the defense of the Saints is just so bad at this point in the last 2 weeks that anything like it just favors the, you know, when you have a team that's relatively okay on offense, they're gonna be able to move the ball up and down the field, and you also have a defense in the Panthers that has been performing, you know, pretty well over the last 2 weeks. It just favors the Panthers in this matchup. So that's the basics when it comes to this sort of information. Now when we get to the more individual, not individual matchups, just some other sort of things to look at. When you look at first down completion percentage, so basically the New Orleans Saints offense in terms of completion percentage compared to the Panthers in terms of allowing completion percentage, the Saints do have a sizable advantage when it comes to completion percentage. When it comes to first down completion percentage, the Saints are one of the best in the NFL in terms of that particular data point. The Saints also have significant advantage over second down completion percentage and a slight advantage over the Panthers when it comes to third down completion percentage. So overall, I mean, the Saints will get completions. I mean, that's basically all this really means. When you look at the Panthers side of things, this again is pointing to kind of the fact that, you know, the Saints are the worst in the NFL when it comes to preventing first down completions. They're also one of the worst in the NFL when it comes to preventing third down completions. And we'll get more into why this is an issue when we get into some of the other data points. But for the most part, the Panthers offense has significant advantages when it comes to those two key situations. You know, first down, being able to create first downs on first down versus being able to create first downs on third down. Those two areas, the Panthers will have significant advantages based on how the Saints defense is played. When we look at rushing, the Saints rushing offense versus the Panthers rushing defense, the Saints have just not been very good when it comes to creating first downs with the run this year. You know, I'm not going to pinpoint exactly why that is, but it just is a fact of what's been happening up to this point. So the Panthers defense has an advantage over them when it comes to first down conversion rate when it comes to the run. The Panthers by no means have been amazing when it comes to preventing first downs with the run, but they have been at least above what the Saints have been performing at over the last 2 weeks. The second down area of rushing downs favors the Panthers, but slightly, so this is more of an even matchup between the two. And the Panthers defense, when it comes to their third down run situations, just completely crushed the Saints. So I don't think the running game is really going to get going against this Panthers rush defense overall, because I think the matchups just kind of really favor the Panthers in terms of rushing the football. But again, the Saints don't really rush the football that much anyways, which might be some of the reasons why their first down rush percentage is so bad. And then, of course, when you look at the rushing offense of the Panthers versus the Saints rushing defense, the Saints actually have an advantage in terms of first down conversion rates with the run over the Panthers, who have been kind of lackluster when it comes to creating first downs on first down with the run. However, the Panthers do have an advantage when it comes to second down situations compared to the Saints defense, and they do have an advantage when it comes to third down situations with this defense. So despite the fact that the Saints are able to kind of be at least adequate when it comes to preventing first downs on first down with the rush, they're not getting it done when it comes to second downs or third downs, which I think will favor the Panthers. So I think the Panthers rushing offense should have some success. And then when you get to the passing situation, so when you look at the Saints passing offense versus the Panthers passing defense, the areas to kind of look at and kind of think about, which is not a big concern, but just somewhat of a concern. The Panthers defense has an advantage over the Saints offense when it comes to first down conversion rate. The Panthers defense has just been performing a little bit better than the way that the Saints offense has been performing when it comes to this particular metric. The second down situations favor the Saints, though. So when it comes to creating first downs on second down, it kind of favors the Saints a little bit, but the Panthers are not much of a slouch either. And when it comes to third down situations with the pass, the Panthers are one of the best in the NFL when it comes to that particular metric, while the Saints are actually not that great this year when it comes to getting first downs on third down. So if there ever was sort of a critique of the passing offense of the Saints, is that, you know, they're able to put up points, they're able to move the football, but they haven't been able to sustain drives in terms of third down situations with the pass compared to the rest of the NFL again. So that is something that will definitely be sort of interesting to watch, because if they have issues against this Panthers passing defense, I think that's not going to bode well for them in this particular game as well, on top of the defense of the Saints just being so bad this year. So, of course, and then, of course, you have to look at the Panthers offense, the passing offense versus the Saints passing defense. It shouldn't be a surprise. The Panthers have advantages when it comes to first down, second down, and third down. A sizable advantage when it comes to third down. And again, if the Saints have when it comes to their defense, they're allowing the most completions on third down compared to every other team in the NFL. And as a result, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL in terms of preventing first downs on third down, which is just as a result of just not being able to create, incompletions, in those particular areas. So this is definitely a concern. Whether it's a lack of pass rush on top of not having elite cornerbacks, and it's not to say that guys like Marshawn Lattimore is bad. It's just that he's a young guy, and there's a lot of players that are talented but young, and then you have this sort of situation where you're not getting enough pass rush, and it's just a whole bunch of different things. And of course, the Saints have historically just had issues in terms of defense. So, but overall, I mean, the Panthers. It's easy to say the Panthers' passing offense will have some advantages, significant advantages, in fact, against the Saints' defense up to this point. So, in terms of how I feel about this game, I mean, it is a rivalry game. It's the Saints versus the Panthers. Even if it's a situation where the Panthers the Saints are just going up and down the field scoring, because that's what happens when you have a guy like Drew Brees. You're always going to have a chance in any game that you're in. But I do think that the defense of the Panthers is a little bit overwhelming. I think because of how poorly the Saints have been performing in the last 2 weeks, that this is just not going to bode well for them. So I kind of stick with the data. I think the Panthers will be able to win this game. I think it will be a fun game to watch because of, anything can kind of happen in these games. When it's Panthers versus Saints, I think a lot of things can happen to kind of, despite what the numbers said going in, there could be sort of things here and there that kind of throw things off. Players up their game a bit in this type of matchup, but I still think the Panthers win. So, of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.